The twin suns of Arden 9 burned low over the dusty fields. The air shimmered with heat, and a soft wind carried the smell of metal and dry grass. Far away, a tiny alien girl, barely 3 feet tall, walked through the desert with slow, tired steps. Her skin glowed faintly blue under the suns. Her big silver eyes looked empty, like she had lost everything. Her name was Nira, and everyone in the galaxy knew her kind. The Tellians were rare and fragile. They could sing light into crystals, heal wounds with a touch, and live for hundreds of years. But Nira was born with a curse. She was infertile. In her world, that meant she was useless. The Tellians believed every life must create new life. Those who couldn't were considered broken. So when Nira turned 16, her clan sold her to humans for work, like a tool that had no purpose. The ship that carried her to the human colony was cold and silent. She sat alone, clutching a small metal charm, her mother's gift. "Find your worth," her mother had whispered before she was taken away, "even if others can't see it." When the ship landed, Nira stepped into a strange world. The colony was rough and loud. Machines roared, men shouted, and red dust filled the air. A tall man waited near a hover truck, chewing something in his mouth. He wore a wide hat and had a tired, serious face. "Name's Rogan Hale," he said in a low voice. "I'm the rancher who bought you." Nira bowed her head slightly, unsure what to say. He sighed. "Don't worry. I don't need slaves. Just help me take care of the solar ranch. If you work hard, you'll eat well." Nira nodded. She didn't know what a solar ranch was, but she followed him. Rogan's ranch stretched far beyond the horizon. Fields of glowing solar panels, energy tanks, and a few robotic animals that grazed near the wind turbines. Nira was amazed. She had never seen such machines. Rogan showed her a small shed. "You'll stay here. It's not much, but it's safe." Nira touched the walls. They were warm, humming with energy. "This place," she whispered, "feels alive." Rogan raised an eyebrow. "You can feel that?" She nodded. "The light speaks. It's tired." Rogan chuckled, shaking his head. "You talk like the old priests on Earth. Machines don't speak, kid." But later that night, when the turbines stopped suddenly, it was Nira who walked outside, touched the main cable, and whispered something. The lights flickered and came back on. Rogan stared at her, speechless. "You fixed it?" She looked down shyly. It was scared. It just needed to breathe again. He didn't understand a word, but from that night on he started to believe she wasn't like any worker he'd ever hired. Days turned into weeks. Nira worked silently, repairing broken bots, cleaning panels, and talking to the wind. She rarely smiled, but sometimes under the double sunset, Rogan saw her humming softly, light glowing under her fingertips, yet the townsfolk whispered. "Why keep an alien that can't breed?" they said. "She's cursed," another spat. "Tellians with empty wombs bring bad luck." Rogan ignored them, but Nira heard everything. One night she sat outside watching the stars. Even among humans, she thought, I'm still broken. But then something strange began happening. Whenever she touched the soil, tiny green lights shimmered beneath her hands. The barren ground started to breathe again. Plants that hadn't grown in years began to sprout around her, Rogan noticed. "What are you doing?" "I don't know," she said softly. "It's calling for life." He scratched his head. "Maybe you're not as empty as they say." For the first time, Nira smiled. But peace never lasts long on Arden 9. One afternoon, while Rogan was away trading energy units, a group of strangers came to the ranch, 3 rough men with guns and a hover cart. "You're the Tellian, aren't you?" the leader sneered. "The infertile one?" Nira froze. "We've got a buyer. Some collector from the core worlds pays good money for your kind. Let's make this easy." They grabbed her arms. Her eyes glowed bright silver. "Don't touch me," she whispered. The ground trembled. The solar panels flickered. The men laughed, but the laughter stopped when lightning cracked from the sky. The energy towers burst alive and blue fire roared through the fields. The men screamed and ran, their hover cart exploding in the distance. Nira fell to her knees, trembling. Her hands smoked with light. She didn't understand what had happened. She only knew one thing. Something inside her had awakened. Something powerful. When Rogan returned, he found the ranch half burned and Nira lying in the ashes. She looked at him with wide eyes. "Rogan," she whispered, "I felt..." Life moved through me. He knelt beside her, eyes wide with fear and awe. "What are you?" he asked softly. Nira didn't answer. She looked at the rising suns and said, "Maybe not broken after all." Morning came quietly over the ranch. The sky of Ardenine was painted gold and violet. The solar panels still smoked from the strange lightning storm. The air smelled of burnt metal and wet dust. Rogan Hale stood beside his hover truck staring at the ruins. He couldn't understand what had happened. The machines had exploded like they were alive, and in the center of it all, Nira, the tiny alien girl he had bought just months ago, had glowed like a star. Now she sat near the barn, weak and pale, her silver eyes dim. Rogan walked closer, rubbing the back of his neck. "You sure you didn't touch any cables?" he asked. Nira shook her head slowly. "It wasn't the machines. It was me," Rogan frowned. "You're saying you caused the storm?" "I don't know," she whispered. "Something inside me woke up when they tried to take me. I felt it like the sky was breathing through me." Rogan didn't believe in magic. But what he had seen last night wasn't science either. The towers had come alive like wild animals. He had seen men burn without a single bullet fired. "Whatever it was," he said finally, "you saved yourself, and you saved my ranch." Nira looked at the ground. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Rogan sighed. "Sometimes to survive, you don't get to choose." That week, strange things started happening. Wherever Nira walked, machines worked better. Old panels gave more power. The water filters ran faster. Even the ranch's crops, small green vines meant for energy fuel, grew thicker and brighter. The land was changing, and so was Nira. Her body glowed faintly at night. When she dreamed, the lights in the house flickered. Rogan noticed but said nothing. He just watched, curious and a little afraid, but rumors travel faster than light. By the end of the week, traders in the nearby town whispered about the blue alien witch who could command the storm. Some said she was a weapon. Others said she carried forbidden energy from the old wars. And then came the message. A government drone landed at Rogan's gate one evening. It projected a cold metallic voice. "Citizen Rogan Hale, you are harboring an unregistered Tellian subject. All non-human species with unstable energy signatures must be surrendered to the Galactic Council for examination. Failure to comply will result in termination." Rogan's stomach tightened. He looked at Nira, who stood quietly behind him, eyes wide with fear. "They'll take you apart," he muttered. "They think you're dangerous." "I am dangerous," she said softly. "I don't even know what I am anymore." Rogan clenched his fists. "No, you're alive." "That's all that matters." He smashed the drone with a wrench. Sparks flew and the message cut off. That night, they packed. Rogan loaded food, water, and a few energy cells onto his hover truck. "Where will we go?" Nira asked. "North," he said. "To the old mining belts. Nobody checks there anymore," she hesitated. "You don't have to do this for me." Rogan looked at her sharply. "Kid, I don't leave anyone to die, not after what I've seen." They drove through the desert under the twin moons. The wind howled like ghosts. Dust clouds followed them like shadows. As the ranch lights disappeared behind them, Nira turned once more to look back. "I made that land live again," she whispered. "Now it'll die without me." Rogan didn't answer. He was too busy watching the radar. Drones were already in the sky scanning. Hours later, their truck broke down near an old canyon. Rogan cursed and kicked the engine. "Energy cores burnt. We'll have to stay here until morning." Nira nodded. She stepped out and looked at the stars. Her body glowed faintly enough to light the rocks around her. "Why are you glowing like that?" Rogan asked, sitting beside her. "It's the life force," she said quietly. "All Tellians have it. But mine feels different. It grows stronger every time I feel something powerful, fear, pain, hope." He raised an eyebrow. "Hope's dangerous stuff out here." She smiled sadly. "Maybe, but it's all I have." They sat in silence for a while. The desert was calm again. Only the faint hum of distant drones filled the air. Suddenly Nira gasped. Her hands pressed against her chest. "It's happening again," she whispered. Rogan stood up. "What's happening?" The ground began to glow beneath her feet. Lines of blue light spread like veins through the rock. The air crackled with energy. Rogan shielded his eyes as a wave of light burst out of her body. It wasn't like the storm before. This time the light was gentle, almost alive. The cracked rocks around them started to heal. Broken stones fused together. Small plants began to grow where no plant had lived for a century. When it was over, Nira collapsed, breathing hard. Rogan knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly. "I saw something. A place full of life. A child's voice calling me. It said, 'Mother.'" Rogan froze. "Mother, but you can't—" "I know," she said, tears in her eyes. "I'm infertile. It shouldn't be possible. But I felt him. Like he was part of me." The night wind grew cold. Rogan looked at her, unsure what to say. If what she said was true, the galaxy's laws of biology meant nothing now. Far above them, hidden in the clouds, a dark ship hovered, its sensors locked on the glowing signature below. Inside, a voice said, "Subject Nira located. Initiate capture. The experiment has awakened." The night was silent after the burst of blue light. The canyon lay still, glowing faintly from Nira's strange power. Rogan held her in his arms, her skin warm like sunlight trapped inside flesh. She was breathing fast but alive. Above them, the stars seemed to blink, and one of them moved. It wasn't a star. It was a ship. Rogan didn't notice it yet, but the Galactic Council's black vessel hovered high above the clouds. Inside, scientists and soldiers watched her energy readings on glowing screens. "Confirmed," said a cold voice. "Subject Nira's power levels exceed Tellian standards. Activate containment sequence." Down below, Rogan was helping Nira sit up. "Easy, kid. You nearly burned the desert again," he said. Nira blinked weakly. "Did you see it too?" "See what?" "The voice. Calling me mother." It felt real. Rogan frowned. "You said you can't have children." She looked at her trembling hands. "That's what they said when they sold me. But maybe they were wrong, or maybe someone changed me." Rogan didn't like the sound of that. "Changed you how?" Before she could answer, the sky split open with a thunderous boom. A beam of white light shot down from the clouds, turning night into day. "Down," Rogan shouted, grabbing her and rolling behind a rock. The beam hit the canyon floor, melting stone into glass. When the light faded, a mechanical voice echoed through the air. "Tellian Subject Nira 7, surrender peacefully. You belong to the Council. Resistance will result in termination." Nira's body shook. "They found me. They finally found me." Rogan drew his blaster. "Not while I'm breathing." 3 metallic drones descended from the sky, hovering like vultures. Their red eyes glowed, scanning the canyon. Rogan fired first. 1 drone exploded in sparks. The other 2 fired back. Thin beams of red energy cutting through the air. Rocks shattered around them. Nira closed her eyes, hands glowing again. The air trembled. The ground pulsed with blue light, and suddenly the drones froze mid-air, engines whining, lights flickering. Then they crashed down like dead birds. Rogan stared at her. "Remind me not to make you angry." Nira's glow faded. "They'll send more," she said softly. "They never stop once they find a subject." "Subject?" Rogan repeated. "You're not some lab rat." But deep down, Nira knew the truth. She had always wondered why she was different from other Tellians, why her skin glowed brighter, why her blood hummed like energy. Now she remembered flashes of cold rooms, machines, and human scientists whispering her name. She wasn't just infertile, she was modified. The next morning, they hid inside an old mining tunnel. The air was damp and full of echoes. Rogan patched the hover truck while Nira sat in the corner, staring at her reflection in a puddle. "Rogan," she said quietly, "do you think something can be both alive and created?" He looked up. "You mean like the robots?" "Or you?" She nodded. "I think I was born but also made. The Council wanted to create a Tellian who could produce life energy without giving birth. They failed. Or thought they failed. Maybe my infertility wasn't a curse, it was control." Rogan's jaw tightened. "They wanted to use you like a machine." "Yes," she whispered. "But now something's changing. The voice I heard, it called me mother. Maybe their experiment worked. Too well." They didn't notice the soft clicking sound coming from deeper in the cave until it was too late. Metal footsteps, a faint light. From the shadow stepped a tall figure wrapped in a black cloak. His face was hidden behind a breathing mask and his eyes glowed amber. "Nira," he said in a calm metallic tone. "You survived." Rogan raised his blaster. "Who the hell are you?" The figure ignored him. He looked straight at Nira. "They told me you were destroyed. I was the prototype before you. They called me Avon 6, Nira's eyes widened. "You're one of us." "Not anymore," Avon said. "I was designed to control destruction. You were designed to control creation." Together we were supposed to balance life and death. But they ended the project when they feared us, Rogan muttered. Sounds like they had good reason. Avon tilted his head. The voice you heard, it wasn't in your mind. It came from the core the scientists made from both our DNA. They called it Project Genesis. A living seed powerful enough to restart dying worlds, Nira whispered. The child, Avon nodded. It's alive. The council took it years ago, but it's calling for you now. It wants to return to its mother. Before anyone could speak, the ground shook violently. The sound of engines roared outside the cave. Drones filled the sky again, and the council's ship began to descend. Avon turned to Nira. They've found us. You must run. What about you? She asked. I'll hold them off. I was built for this. Rogan grabbed Nira's hand. He's right. We have to go. Now. As they ran through the back tunnels, blue light pulsed from Nira's hands, lighting the path. Behind them, they could hear explosions. Avon fighting with pure energy, drones screaming as they burned. At the exit, Rogan looked back.
Will he survive?
Nira's voice broke. He already died once. Now he's just doing what he was made to do. They climbed out of the tunnel into the daylight, dust covering their faces. The council's ship loomed above like a dark god. Rogan started the truck and they sped off into the desert once again. As the ship shrank behind them, Nira whispered, The child is real. Somewhere out there, my son is waiting, and I will find him. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, and for the first time, Rogan saw something in her that wasn't fear or pain. It was purpose. High above, Avon's final words echoed through the council's radios before silence. You can't stop life. You can only delay it. The desert wind howled behind them as Rogan's hover truck sped across the endless red dunes. The sky above was bruised purple, and twin suns were setting behind the rocky horizon. Nira sat quietly in the passenger seat, her silver eyes reflecting the fading light. Her mind was still trapped in the echo of Avon's voice. Project Genesis, the child calling her mother. Could it be real? Could something she had never given birth to truly exist? A child made not from her body but from her energy? Rogan broke the silence. You look like you've seen a ghost, Nira whispered. Maybe I have. A child's spirit. One that came from me. Rogan glanced at her, unsure if she was speaking metaphor or truth. If what that Avon guy said is right, then your child might be some kind of weapon. No, Nira said softly. He's not a weapon. He's life. I felt him inside me before they took him. He was pure and afraid. Her voice trembled, and for a moment Rogan saw something in her eyes. Something deeply human. They drove for hours until the dunes gave way to an ancient city buried half in dust. Massive metal towers leaned against each other like broken bones. This place is dead, Rogan muttered. Not dead, Nira corrected. Sleeping. As she stepped out of the truck, faint blue lights began to flicker inside the ruins. The ground pulsed softly beneath her feet like a heartbeat awakening after centuries. Rogan's eyes widened. You're waking the machines again. They remember me, Nira whispered. This was once a Telian temple, long before the council turned it into a testing site. Inside, the walls glowed with ancient writing. Rogan ran his hand along one of the panels. You can read this stuff? Yes, she said, tracing the symbols. It speaks of the cradle of creation, a machine that could give life to barren worlds. The humans came here to find it. Instead, they found us. As they moved deeper into the temple, Nira stopped suddenly. A sound echoed from the chamber ahead, a faint hum, almost like a lullaby. She stepped closer, drawn to it as if by instinct. In the center of the chamber floated a small orb of light, glowing with soft blue and gold. It pulsed gently like it was breathing. Nira gasped. That's him. Rogan frowned. That's what? My son. Before Rogan could speak, the orb pulsed brighter. A child's voice echoed through the air, clear and soft. Mother, you came back. The light expanded, forming the outline of a small figure. A glowing child with no face, only energy. Rogan's mouth dropped open. Holy stars. Nira stepped forward, tears in her eyes. I thought you were gone. They took me, the voice said. They tried to turn me into power. But I hid. I waited for your song, Rogan blinked. He talks like you. Nira smiled through her tears. Because he is me, my energy. My heart, but the joy didn't last long. Suddenly, the temple shook violently. Rocks fell from the ceiling and lights turned red. A loud alarm screamed through the chambers. "They found us!" Rogan shouted. The orb child's light dimmed. "They are coming. They want to cage me again." "Who's coming?" Nira asked. "The keeper. The one who watches all experiments," Rogan cursed. "We need to move now." He grabbed Nira's arm, but she didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the child of light. "I won't leave him again," she said. Before Rogan could argue, a shadow appeared in the doorway, tall, armored, and glowing with red lines of power. A deep, mechanical voice filled the air. "Nira 7, you have disobeyed Galactic Order 44. Return the Genesis core immediately." The figure stepped closer, revealing its face, half human, half machine. Its eyes burned with red fire. "You created a living weapon. Now you will help me control it." Rogan aimed his blaster, but the keeper raised his hand. A wave of red energy threw him across the room. Nira screamed, "Stop!" and light exploded from her body. The walls of the temple cracked as her energy clashed with the keeper's. Blue met red, creation versus control. The child's voice cried out, "Mother, don't!" The entire temple trembled. Rogan struggled to his feet, shielding his face from the storm of light. He saw Nira standing in the center, glowing like a sun, her body flickering between solid and energy. The keeper's armor began to melt, his voice turning into static. "You cannot control life," Nira said, her voice echoing like thunder. With a final burst of light, the keeper was gone. Only dust remained, silence followed. The walls stopped shaking. Rogan ran to Nira, who had fallen to her knees. Her skin dimmed, her glow fading fast. The child's orb floated beside her, humming softly. "You use too much, Mother. You're fading." Rogan knelt beside her. "Stay with me, kid. You hear me?" Nira looked at him weakly. "I'm fine. Just tired." Then she looked at the child. "I'll never let them take you again." "You can't hide me here," the child said. "They will come again. You must take me to the stars and to the cradle." Rogan frowned. "Cradle? You mean that myth thing?" "It's real," the child said. "The place where all life begins." Nira reached out and touched the child's light. "Then that's where we'll go." The child's glow pulsed brighter, wrapping around her hand like warmth. Rogan sighed, glancing at the ruined temple and the night sky beyond. "Guess we're going on another run." Nira smiled faintly. "Not a run. A journey." Outside, as they stepped into the night, the stars above seemed to move, forming a faint symbol. The same one from the temple wall, a cradle surrounded by light. Far away, inside a council ship, a shadowy figure watched the energy readings and whispered, "Let them run. Every step brings her closer to the truth, and to the end of all things." The sky above Arden 9 was filled with silver dust as Nira, Rogan, and the glowing child of light rode across the desert in Rogan's patched hover truck. The engines hummed softly and the twin suns burned low behind them. For days they had been running, through ruined towns, silent valleys, and fields that once held life. But no matter how far they went, the council's signals followed them. The air was thick with the sound of distant scanners. Rogan checked the radar again. "They're still on our tail. 4 drones, maybe 5. Nira's silver eyes flickered with light. "Don't worry. The desert listens to me now." She lifted her hand and the ground ahead rippled. Fine grains of sand rose like mist, forming a wall that swallowed the horizon. The drones behind them vanished into the storm, lost in the swirl of dust and light. Rogan whistled. "Remind me not to upset you." Nira smiled faintly. "I didn't destroy them. The storm will let them sleep." The child of light hovered near her shoulder, glowing gently. "Mother, your energy weakens each time you use it." "I'll rest later," she said softly. First, we reached the cradle. That night, they stopped near a canyon filled with quiet blue stones that shone under the moonlight. Rogan set up a small fire, though it was hardly needed. The child's glow kept them warm. He looked at Nira. "Tell me something, kid. What happens when we find this cradle?" "What then?" Nira looked up at the stars. "If it's real, the cradle can heal worlds. It can make life grow again. Not from machines, not from power, but from pure light." Rogan poked the fire. "And the council? You think they'll just let you turn the galaxy upside down?" She smiled sadly. "They can't stop what's already been born." Rogan stared at her, then at the child, who was now humming quietly, the sound almost like a heartbeat. "He really is alive," Rogan said. "Yes," Nira whispered, "and he's learning. Every second." The child turned its faceless glow toward Rogan. "You're afraid." Rogan chuckled awkwardly. "You're not wrong." "Fear is the beginning of courage," the child said, its voice soft but certain. Nira smiled. "He speaks like he's older than both of us." By dawn, they reached the edge belt, a ring of floating rocks and broken satellites orbiting the desert world. It was the last barrier before open space. Rogan guided the truck into an abandoned hangar. Inside rested an old ship, rusted, cracked, but still breathing. Its name was barely readable, the Wayfarer. Rogan grinned. "She may be ugly, but she flies." Nira touched the ship's hull. The metal pulsed with blue light. "She remembers the stars," she said. Together they powered the engines. The child floated into the control chamber and spread its light across the dashboard, merging with the systems. "Navigation online," it said. "Destination, the cradle." Rogan blinked. "You can fly ships too?" "I can learn anything that carries life energy," the child replied simply. Rogan shook his head. "I'm traveling with a god and his parents." As the ship rose through the thin clouds, the planet of Arden 9 grew small behind them. Nira pressed her hand to the glass. "Goodbye," she whispered. "You gave me pain, but also purpose." In the void, stars shimmered like tears. Rogan leaned back in his seat. "So where exactly is this cradle?" The child's voice echoed gently through the cabin. "Beyond the shadow zone, where light dies and is reborn." Rogan groaned. "Of course it's in the worst part of the galaxy." Nira looked at him, serious. "That's why life hides there, and no, away from those who try to control it." For 2 days they traveled through the dark. The ship passed through nebulous storms and frozen comets. Once a giant space leviathan drifted past them, its translucent fins glowing like moonlight. Rogan stared in awe. "I used to think space was empty," he said. "It's never empty," Nira replied. "It's full of things too quiet for humans to hear." But peace never lasted long. On the third night, alarms blared. "Ships incoming," Rogan shouted, gripping the controls. "2 council interceptors." Nira closed her eyes. "They followed our energy trail." The child's glow darkened. "They are using my signal." Laser fire streaked past the hull. The Wayfarer shook violently. Rogan cursed. "We can't outrun them." Nira stood, her hair floating in the zero-gravity air. "Then we fight, and not to kill, but to remind them what life can do." She placed her hand on the control core. Blue light burst from her body, spreading through the ship like veins. The entire vessel came alive, metal breathing, circuits glowing like stars. The child joined her, merging its golden light with her blue aura. Together they formed a wave of energy that pulsed outward. The enemy ships froze mid-space, their weapons turning cold. Then one by one they powered down, their systems overwhelmed not by destruction but by pure life force. Rogan watched, speechless. "You shut them down without firing a shot," Nira smiled weakly. "Even machines can remember peace, if someone reminds them." But the effort drained her. She collapsed against the control seat, her glow fading. The child hovered close, worried. "You cannot keep doing this, Mother." Nira touched the child's light. "Every time I use this power, I feel the cradle calling stronger." "It's close," Rogan frowned. "Close enough for them to track us again." She shook her head. "No, the cradle doesn't want them. It only calls those who carry its spark." Finally, through the blackness ahead, they saw it. A faint ring of light spinning slowly in the void. A world of glass and water floating in the dark. "The cradle," whispered Nira. Rogan leaned forward. "Looks like heaven." But the child's voice trembled. "No, something's wrong. The cradle's light is dying." Nira's heart pounded. "They found it before us." As the ship descended toward the shimmering planet, they saw massive council ships anchored above it, feeding on its core, draining its life to power their armies. Rogan's jaw tightened. "So this is what they do with life energy. They steal it." Nira stood, her body glowing brighter than ever. "Then we take it back." Outside, thunder rippled across the stars as the Wayfarer dived toward the dying world. The cradle waited, silent, sacred, and fading, and somewhere deep inside it, something ancient whispered, "Welcome home, Nira. The end of one life is the beginning of another." The ship Wayfarer broke through the clouds of silver mist and entered the sky of the cradle. Below them spread a world that didn't look real, oceans glowing with golden light, floating islands shaped like petals, and air filled with soft music that had no source. But the beauty was dying. The once bright rivers had turned gray and the petals were breaking apart, falling into the dark sea below. Nira stood near the window, her eyes wide with pain. "They're draining it," she whispered. "They're killing the heart of life." Rogan adjusted the ship's sensors. "I count 5 council ships above the surface. They're pulling energy from the core." The child of light floated between them, its glow flickering weakly. "They are feeding on my siblings," it said in a trembling voice. The cradle was made to give life, not to be eaten by greed. Nira's hands glowed blue. "Then we stopped them. Today." They landed near a ruined tower that rose from the glowing ocean. The air was heavy, humming with dying energy. Strange vines of light wrapped around the ground, pulsing slower and slower. Rogan checked his weapon.
"We'll have to move fast."
"Once they detect us, they'll send everything." Nira stepped forward, her bare feet touching the glowing soil. The moment she did, the ground came alive. Tiny orbs of light floated up and circled her like fireflies. "They remember me," she said softly. "This world was made from the same energy that created me." Rogan stared. "You mean this whole planet is connected to you?" "Yes," Nira said. "The cradle is not a place. It's a living being. I'm part of it, and so is the child." The child's glow brightened. "Then we can heal it together," Rogan muttered. "I'm just the guy with the gun, huh?" Nira smiled. "You're more than that, Rogan. You're the reason I still believe in humans." He looked away quickly, pretending to check his blaster. "Don't go all sentimental now. Let's move." They climbed the ruins of the tower. As they reached the top, they saw it, the council's main extractor, a monstrous machine anchored into the cradle's heart. Long tubes ran into the soil, pulling pure energy upward into the orbiting ships. Hundreds of drones hovered around it, and in the center stood a tall figure wrapped in black armor, his face hidden behind a silver mask. "The High Warden," Nira whispered. "The one who started Project Genesis." The Warden turned slowly, as if he could feel her presence even from afar. His voice echoed across the sea. "Welcome home, Nira 7. You've brought back what belongs to us." Rogan gritted his teeth. "He knows we're here." "Of course I do," the Warden continued. "You and your child were never meant to escape. You are the cradle's final gift, and its key." Nira's eyes narrowed. "You mean its weapon?" "Call it what you wish," said the Warden. "Without you, life cannot be reborn. With you under my control, I can create endless power." Nira took a deep breath. "You can't own life." "Watch me," the Warden said, raising his hand. Lightning burst from the sky. The ground split open. Drones swarmed like insects, firing red beams. Rogan dove for cover, returning fire. Explosions shook the tower. Nira shielded the child with her body, energy crackling from her skin. "Stay close!" "Mother," the child cried. "Let me help." "No, you're not ready." But the child ignored her. It rose into the air, shining brighter and brighter until it was blinding. The drones froze mid-attack, caught in a wave of golden energy. Their circuits turned blue, no longer weapons but peaceful lights drifting upward like stars. Rogan looked up in awe. "He changed them. He freed them." Nira's voice trembled. "He's growing too fast." The Warden's mask glowed red. "Enough," he thundered. He raised a staff crackling with crimson light. "If you will not serve me, you will die with this world." He struck the ground and a red wave of corruption spread across the cradle. The glowing soil turned black, the rivers boiled, and the sky dimmed. Nira screamed as the pain hit her body. "He's poisoning it. He's killing everything!" Rogan grabbed her arm. "Then stop him." She fell to her knees, clutching the ground. "The cradle is part of me. If he destroys it, I die too." The child floated beside her, its light flickering weakly. "Then we fight together. You gave me life. Now I give it back." Before Nira could stop it, the child flew straight into the red storm. "No," she cried, reaching out. But the light was gone. A moment later, a massive explosion of gold and blue tore through the sky. The red corruption melted away. The Warden stumbled backward, his armor cracking, his mask splitting open to reveal a human face beneath. Pale, cold, and full of fear. "You don't understand," he gasped. "Without the child, the balance will collapse." Nira stood slowly, her eyes glowing like twin stars. "Then I will carry the balance myself." She spread her arms, and the golden light that had once been the child flowed back into her chest. The cradle pulsed once, then began to heal. The warden screamed, raising his broken staff. "You think you can stop me? I built you!" Nira's voice echoed across the ocean. "You built a weapon, but I became a mother." A blinding light erupted from her body, swallowing everything. When it faded, the extractor was gone. The warden had vanished, and the sky above the cradle burned bright with life once more. Rogan opened his eyes slowly. The tower was gone, replaced by an endless field of glowing flowers. Nira stood in the center, her body shimmering faintly, half energy, half flesh. He walked toward her. "Kid, are you still you?" She smiled softly. "I am more than I was. The child is within me now. We are one." Rogan nodded slowly. "So what happens next?" Nira looked at the sky, where the stars seemed to bend toward her. "Now, I finish what the cradle began. The galaxy will live again." Far above, in the shadow of a distant moon, a council officer watched the reborn planet on his screen. He whispered into his comm, "The cradle has awakened, and so has she. Prepare for the next phase." The dawn over the cradle was unlike any sunrise before. The sky rippled with gold and blue, and rivers of light flowed where oceans once were. Flowers of pure energy bloomed across the surface, glowing like stars fallen to the ground. But at the center of it all stood Nira, half flesh, half light. The child's energy now lived inside her, pulsing softly with every heartbeat. Her silver eyes glowed with both love and sorrow. She had saved the cradle, but the cost was heavy. Her body was fading. Every time she breathed, small motes of light rose from her skin and drifted into the wind. Rogan watched her from the edge of the field. The air smelled like rain and starlight. He walked closer, his boots pressing softly against the glowing grass. "You did it," he said quietly. "You brought life back." Nira smiled faintly. "Not me, we did," he shook his head. "No, you did this, kid. You turned a dying world into paradise." She looked away toward the sky. "Paradise never lasts, Rogan. The council will come again." "They always do," he frowned. "Then we'll fight them again, together." But she shook her head slowly. "I can't leave the cradle anymore. I'm part of it now. If I go, it dies again." Rogan's throat tightened. "You're saying this is goodbye?" She smiled sadly. "Goodbye isn't the right word. It's just change." High above the planet, in the blackness of space, the remaining council fleet gathered like vultures. Their massive ships glowed red, weapons aimed down at the cradle. Inside the command vessel, the officers stared at their screens in silence. The High Warden's chair was empty. His body had never been found. But someone else sat in his place now, a shadowed figure whose voice carried calm fury. "Target the surface. End the cradle. If she becomes one with it, she will be unstoppable." Engines roared. The sky began to burn. Back on the surface, Nira suddenly looked up. "They're coming," she whispered. Rogan grabbed his blaster. "Then let them come." She placed a glowing hand on his arm. "No, guns won't stop them this time." "Then what will?" "Hope," she said softly. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The flower's light flickered as shadows fell across the sky, massive warships entering the atmosphere. Nira closed her eyes and knelt on the glowing soil. The wind swirled around her, lifting her hair. Her voice was calm, almost a whisper. The cradle was made to give, not to fight. But life can defend itself when it must. Rogan stepped back, shielding his eyes as blue light burst from her body. The energy spread across the land like ripples on water. Every plant, every tree, every stream began to glow brighter, alive, aware, and awake. From the forests rose creatures made of light, wings, claws, tails of fire. They filled the sky like a living storm. Rogan gasped. "What in the stars?" Nira stood, her voice echoing like a song through the wind. "They are the memory of the cradle, the guardians. They were waiting for me." The sky erupted as the creatures met the council's attack. Laser fire turned to harmless sparks. Ships cracked open under the weight of pure energy. It wasn't war. It was rebirth. But in the middle of the chaos, one ship broke through, the largest of them all. It descended toward the surface, engines screaming, tearing through the golden clouds. Nira looked up. The flagship. Their commander is here. The ground shook as the ship landed, crushing the field of flowers. The shadowed figure stepped out, the new warden, cloaked in dark armor. His face was human, but his eyes glowed crimson. "You think you've won," he said, voice sharp as glass. "You've just unleashed chaos. Life without control is destruction." Nira faced him calmly. "You call it chaos. I call it freedom." He raised his weapon, a staff burning with red plasma. "Then die with your freedom." Before he could strike, Rogan stepped between them, blaster raised. "Over my dead body," the warden sneered. "So be it." Red light flashed, but Nira caught it midair. The energy bent in her hands like soft clay. Her eyes shone brighter than the sun. "You still don't understand, do you?" "What?" The warden spat. "That life doesn't belong to you. It never did." She spread her arms, and the cradle responded. Light surged upward from the ground, flooding the sky, swallowing every shadow. Rogan fell to his knees, blinded by the brilliance. The warden screamed as his armor melted away, leaving only a trail of red dust in the wind. Then, silence. When the light faded, the sky was clear. The council ships were gone. The cradle shimmered peacefully once more. Rogan blinked through the brightness. "Nira?" He looked around and saw her standing in the distance, glowing softly, her body turning transparent like morning mist. He ran toward her. "Don't you dare disappear on me, kid." She smiled. That same small, shy smile from the first day he met her. "I'm not dying, Rogan. I'm becoming something more." "What do you mean?" he asked, voice breaking. She looked at the sky. "I used to think being infertile meant I couldn't give life. But now I see life was always within me. I was meant to be its keeper, not its mother in flesh." He shook his head. "You're the best damn mother the galaxy ever had." Tears shimmered in her glowing eyes. She reached out and touched his cheek. "Take care of the worlds. Tell them life is worth protecting, even when it scares you." Her hand faded into light. "Goodbye, my friend," Rogan whispered. "Goodbye, Nira." She rose into the sky, her body dissolving into thousands of shimmering fragments, stars reborn from her soul. Years later, travelers who passed near the cradle would see something strange. A new constellation had appeared, shaped like a woman holding a small child of light. They called it the Mother of the Stars, and on quiet nights, when the winds of Arden 9 whispered through the dunes, old Rogan Hale would look up at the sky and murmur, "She wasn't broken. She just became something the universe needed."